Hello, hello. Look, don't judge my singing. I can look if I want to. This is my channel, okay? So look, I took some time off, went on vacay. I don't know if I'm refreshed because I'm jet lagged, but I just want to welcome you if you're new to my channel. I'm the Black opinionated woman, also known as a Bo. I talk about any and everything that I feel like it. You know why? Because it's my channel. Typically related to me being as a Black woman, but I talk about anything. I'm not here to antagonize unless you try to antagonize me. All right, so I just want to talk about a few things. I just want to talk about ethnicity. I'm Gorge. And no shenanigans. So yeah, we had some downtime. We took some significant downtime and we got away. And so lately, it seems like over the last few years, my family has the cruising bug. Primarily my children, except for one. My daughter's like, "Can we stop cruising?" Um, I've cruised several times before, but for this age group where my kids are, I think they like cruising. I'm going to tell you the reason why, and I'll get into all my stuff. They like cruising because, for one, they have more freedom. Two, I don't care what you eat as long as you meet up at a certain time so that we see each other during the day. I mean, we see each other anyway, but we tend to have dinner together. And it gives them an opportunity to get a taste of different locations. Okay. I need to record a video for my other channel, Bo Travels. I haven't uploaded a video in a long time, but I need to put a video out there. I'll record another video on how everything went. But I want to talk about my title because I was talking about ethnicity. So, like we cruised back over in Europe, but this time we when we hit the Mediterranean, we hit more of the Greek Isles. We hit Turkey and a little bit of Italy. And I think we're done with Italy for now. And one of the things is for those of you who've never cruised before, you typically find on a cruise, like the whole staff is full of people from all around the world. Okay. And it was really interesting because although they are supposed to be pleasant and nice and everything like that, I always find it interesting when you engage in conversations. And I just happened to be having a conversation with Rodolfo. Yes, Rodolfo from Albania. And I happened to mention to him, I said, Rodolfo, I have never been to Albania. Okay. I've never been to Albania, Eastern Europe, that part of Eastern Europe. Okay. Um, and he says, "Yeah, I know." He's like, "Not many people come." He's like, "But it's a beautiful country." Everybody says the country's beautiful. But we were just chatting it up. And he just volunteers. Oh, no, no. I know what I said. We were talking about, you know, I don't even remember what we were talking about. And I was like, so now I was just messing with him. Like black people there. And I, being a person who knows people who are like Serbian and all kinds of people, like when you're in that whole general area, Serbia, Montenegro, blah, blah, blah. Um, this is what I have found when you talk about ethnicities or whatever. When you get into that area of the world, okay, it's not that they don't understand race, but they don't like understand race. You know what I mean? Most of the people I know who are from like especially like Eastern Europe or whatever like that, they're more concerned about ethnicity. And they look at all this race stuff, it's like kind of like shenanigans. They're like, what? I mean, they understand logically, but from what I have seen, and this is just my collection of experiences, everyone, when I talk to people or whatever like that area of the world, they're just like, y'all are crazy. They're like, they just don't quite like they understand logically, but you know. And so usually when I see people from like maybe like Serbia or Montenegro, I like to or Croatia, or whatever like that. I like to have conversations because I mean I see people here stateside, but because they're typically like tall, whatever like that. Anyway, so the point I'm making was I was saying to him, I was like, I had never been to Albania. There's only 5 people there, we are just chatting it up, and he was like, actually, so he stopped. He was like, we do. He was like, we don't even get a chance. Like, he's like, it's just so beautiful. Like he started like going on and on, and I was just giving him like, because of course people are gonna say, of course we love. I'm just giving him crap, like we're just chatting it up, right? We had time, but he wanted to have like a real conversation. And so I was like, okay, I wasn't really trying to engage in anything deep. I'm just having a good time, because the guy who was making my coffee on this thing, he's where was he from? Uh, I think he was from India. I can't remember exactly where he was from, but I think he was Indian. We were like chatted up too. He was like, "Oh, I remember. I know how you like to take your It was a latte actually." So the point I'm making was, I'm just having pleasant conversation, but Rodolfo from Albania wanted to have conversations, and being that I was on vacation, I wasn't really it's not that I don't want to engage in those kinds of conversations, but I kind of don't, right? Because when I came back to the States, like, I know the shenanigans that are happening here, right? Like the stuff that's going on here. And it's like it's just two different worlds. It's two different worlds. It's just two different worlds. Two different worlds. So on the one hand, I go overseas, and let me just say for the record too, I think, and it's just based off of, I wouldn't say heuristics or whatever. I even think people treat me differently as a Black American versus maybe a Black person from the continent. So when we say the continent, if you're a person who doesn't look like me, the continent is Africa, from one of the African nations, like, or countries such as like Nigeria, Ghana, um, etc. Okay. So, anyway, Rodolfo from Albania was like, oh, we love color. But then he was starting to get into some other stuff. He was like, it's just suffering being this color. And I was like, oh my gosh. And like, now I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, now you're from Albania. Most likely you're Orthodox, right? Which means you are Christian. And I'm like, wait a second. We are all God's people. Regardless of what you see play out in the news, right? People acting out everywhere, trying to take over stuff. And I'm like, no, no, no. The one thing I don't like is when people who don't look like me want to shame what God gave them. Now, granted, I am partial to being born some kids, right? Like, I love how God made me too. But I'm more on the lines of like, he created all of us, and there's beauty in all of us, right? So here I am, like in my mind, like, okay, like I don't really want to educate. I just want to get my hee-haws and move on. But to listen to this man, Rodolfo from Albania, go on and on about how he's like, it's just suffering being white, and I'm like, what is happening right now? I'm like, because God made us all. So anyway, Rodolfo from Albania was just like, we love the brown skin. Like, we love it. And it's so, he's going on and on. And I'm like, well, thank you for the compliment. And I really wanted to say, dude, like, I know you have to be Orthodox, which means you're probably Christian, which means you know that God loves all of us. And it's primarily here in the States that we're so caught up on this race thing. It's just so weird. You got people wanting to create all white towns and carrying on. And I'm like, go on out there in the woods and just create it then. I don't care. you know? But it was just so interesting listening to this man talk about like ethnicity, but then he was trying to have the conversation about race. And now keep in mind, we are dealing with people who are coming from all around the world. Like they are, you know, I would say tuned in somewhat or educated somewhat, to the types of things that happen stateside. But some of it, they really are just kind of like they look at it like y'all are some of the silliest people, and we are here stateside. So now you know why. While I'm having this conversation with Rodolfo from Albania, I was like, I really don't want to mentally think about these things because I don't want to have to get into a point where I have to start educating, right? I just want to be on a cruise, get more sun kissed, get my snack on, which I did not snack as much as I thought I would on that cruise, by the way. That's a whole other issue. I'll make that video on my other channel. Um, I was just like, I just want to be nothing. I just want to decompress. So anyway, let's go back to my gorge. We're moving on to the second thing. So, I was thinking about Rodolfo from Albania and the people who talk and stuff like that. Now, I was looking around on the boat. Now, I've cruised before. I've been to Europe before, and I just look at women from around the world, and I've come to the conclusion that I have a certain level of delusion about myself because I just think I have it going on too. I just think humanity is beautiful. And I know it sounds so pie in the sky, and I know people don't want to hear this, but there's so many people here stateside who need to leave this country. And I say white and black. Black people will realize that, like, it's not that you won't see racism. I think black Americans have a different experience than black Africans or black Caribbeans. Because I think oftentimes people, when they're overseas, they may confuse the Caribbeans with the Africans. But black Americans have it's just based off my opinion, it's not based off fact, my collection of experiences. I think that relatively we have been well received, I think. And it's important for, I think, people who don't look like me, who live stateside, to leave the United States too. And then they will see just how silly they look, right? Because a lot of times when you go to some of these other places, they're not like really that caught up. They're caught up on some different stuff. Don't insult their soccer team. They're caught up on different things. And like the Americans who are caught up on race, they look silly because other people, like my family, relatively speaking, is always treated nicely overseas. And I think those who don't look like us need to see how silly they look, but also people who look like us, I think, will get a different perspective on how they're received. And the fact that they're gorgeous. I mean, overseas, I know I'm gorgeous. Well, I'm gorgeous anyway because I have a certain delusion of my own mind. But, you know, I think it's important for people to see different perspectives. This is why I always tell people it's so important to be educated and to travel and you gain different perspectives. Because, I was just chatting it up with Rodolfo from Albania, and he just wanted to share certain things. Like, because I'm sure for his perspective, it's kind of like, y'all are some, meaning like Americans, y'all are some of the dumbest people. Like, y'all are like, it's just not a thing for them. They're like, we love brown people. Like, it's just so pretty, and we wish we could tan like that. Like, they're like, and we can't. And he's like, it's like suffering. Now, I would have said long suffering because I'm silly, but he's like, it's like suffering. But I also don't ever want anyone to feel like the way they are born is inferior. Keep in mind, I just feel like I'm superior to everybody. And I don't care what race you are, but that's just like I said, I have a healthy level of delusion. I just think I'm amazing. Whew. Look, you guys know I'm still jet lagged, so I'm fired up now. Come about 6, 7 hours from now, I will be like, don't talk to me. So I have to get myself back on Eastern Standard Time. So, anyways, I'm gonna segue into not putting up with the shenanigans. I don't even remember what I titled this video, but I will adjust the title accordingly based off of the conversations that I just had. So, I happen to be um, getting ready to get off the cruise, okay, and there happens to be a large contingent of Americans who are exiting this cruise. Now we're in Europe, so of course you've got all kinds of Europeans, which makes sense, right? Getting off the cruise, but you have a large contingent of Americans getting off too. And this woman who, she was not a white woman, but she was a minority, not black. Um, Clearly was exiting like us. So we were in line to exit, the cruise, and this woman, I guess, wanted to cut the line. I don't even really care about cutting the line because she just wanted to be done. But it was the way she was doing it. And her family, she had a family. She was running up the back of one of my children. So he was doing this, and we're all moving with our luggage and everything. And I'm like, I just happened to mention to the man behind me, who probably was her husband. I don't know who he was. I'm like, what is she doing? But she kept doing it. She was trying to get in, and I guess cut me off and have her, and not, and she wasn't even like aware of her surroundings because we roll deep. I have four kids and myself and my husband. So we roll deep. There's six of us. I mean, and we clearly look the way we do. So, and I'm looking at her like, what are you doing? And it wasn't even like that big of a deal to cut the line, but I was kind of like, can you not run up the back of my child? So I was like, excuse me. And then this lady had the nerve to act like she had righteous indignation, like she was wrong, and tried to pop off. And look, I am not here for the shenanigans. Now, look, I'm in a foreign country and this is American, but I'm looking at her like, what are you doing? And she decided, I think she had fallen and bumped her head. I think she thought she was going to bark at me. And I looked at her, I was like, who do you think you're talking to? So then I think she was surprised that I would say something because, sometimes people will lose their mind when they're not home. And I was like, and she said something, I was like, lady, you can get this work. I said, let's be clear. You can get all this work. I got a lot of mouth. I'm like, what do you think you're doing? And she said something. I'm like, look, you are wrong. You look, I don't care if you want to stand 10 toes down in your wrongness, and you can say it 100 times, it doesn't make it true, but you're wrong. I'm like, you're literally running up the back of my child. And it was clear. You could see what she was doing. Because, like, her family or whoever it was in back of us. And she was trying to split my. And I'm like, and it's not even a serious. Then she tried to do the ultimate, like, relax, relax. I'm like, no, you relax. I'm like, see, I'm like, I could be a full on Karen, too. You relax. Okay, I'm like, this is not that serious. She's like, we're gonna get off the boat. And I'm like, exactly, we're gonna get off. So stop. Do not run up. Like, she's like pushing into my kid, who's now pushing into my other kid. And I'm like, cut it out. I was like, I don't care what you do. I said, look, you can run your mouth all you want. I said, don't say anything to me because this mouth is serious. I got a whole lot of mouth. And I'm like, what you can do is get in back. I said, you can get this work. I said, what you're doing is you're embarrassing yourself because you know you're wrong and your kids see you're wrong. This is the example you're setting for your kids. So you can move on to the back. And then she said something else. I was like, keep trying me. I will embarrass you. Now, I wasn't going to do anything. And then she's looking at me. I'm looking at her. I'm like, cut it out. You're doing too much. Too much. And this is the point I'm making. I don't know what it is with the Americans who want to try people who are like me. I'm like, this is a new day and age. We are not here for the shenanigans. They used to always say, take the high road. I'm not taking high roads. I'm not. You can get cursed out. Now, I didn't curse her out. I was trying to just get her to stop. I don't know what she was doing with her luggage, and she was hitting my kid, and he kept doing this, and I didn't like it. I was like, lady, you got 50, 11 people in back of you, a whole family. Like, cut it out. And needless to say, I think she got the point. I am not here for the shenanigans. I am just not. You know, I know somebody tried to challenge my husband. We were doing something somewhere, and they just walked up, whatever it was. And I guess they thought, I'm just going to walk in front of him. And, my husband is tall. He's 6'2". He's got good size on him. Not like in fat, but he's just tall. And he was like, excuse me. And then a guy tried to act like he didn't speak English. We knew exactly what it was. And so he, backed up. And the person who was trying to work with my husband looked at him like, you can find your way in back of him, please. Like, what are you doing? It was just so rude. And I think we're just at the point where we're not here for the shenanigans. And interestingly enough, so like my Spanish is so rusty, but I read it decently. I don't speak it well. And my Italian, look, I kind of can understand some stuff that's written. It's been a while. I had taken, look, don't laugh. I had taken up the Spanish 4 and Italian too when I was in high school. And what little bit of French I knew was from like sixth, seventh grade. And I don't know any French. I can't, I, no. But I can make my way around. Or sometimes, like when I was in Italy and I was trying to say something, I couldn't remember what I wanted to say. So I asked in Spanish. Do you speak Spanish? And I tried to ask what I was asking, what I needed, and she didn't quite understand. Probably because my Spanish sounded like Spanish, but she didn't. She said she spoke only a little bit of Spanish. But the point is, you know, I think people think you don't know. And it always messes them up where like they'll say something and then I'll say in English what it was that they said and they look and I'm like, and so then they're like they try to be all nice because I really want to say gotcha B, but I gotta look, I gotta practice kindness, all right. The point is I'm not here for the shenanigans, and it's just these silly Americans. I don't know what's wrong with America. I think they just need one big old hug. I think many of them need to travel more. I don't know, but they will try you. Actually, anybody will try you around the world, really. But yeah, I was just look that day when I was getting off, I was hot too. I'm already cranky because I'm of a certain age, so I was like, "What are you doing? Yeah, I'm gonna need you to find your way back there." And it was, and the thing is, it wasn't even that big of a deal, but it was how she was doing it. I'll get off. To be loud and wrong, like run up the back of my child and try to be loud about it. Now you can just get in the back. You can just go all the way to the back. I can't help you. All right, so that's pretty much it. I just want to just say hi to everyone. I know I haven't been on for a while. I've been trying to be a little bit more balanced, take more time off. We were away on vacation for about a couple of weeks, just shy of 2 weeks. So I needed time to decompress. I just really, really needed it. So I think you're seeing that I have not been on as much. Also, it's because I really didn't even have a whole lot to say. I don't want to talk about politics. I don't want to talk about any of the things going on in the news. I just don't. Like, there's enough of that going on. You guys can all hash it out and talk about it. The only time I will talk about any of those things is if there's like one little thing that just, for whatever reasons, I just like wanted to say something. Otherwise, I'll let you guys all hash it out. All right. So look, I'm getting ready to get off of this. Anyway, so yeah, I'm back. Hopefully you guys missed me. If not, you could just lie to me and just say you did. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to tell you the reason why. I practically like amazing in every way, practically do no wrong. But what you will get is you'll get an honest answer. I try to keep my conversations relatively light. I don't like to deep dive too much because there's so much seriousness going on. It doesn't mean that I can't. It doesn't mean that I can't. I just choose to keep it at a certain level. I don't feel like fighting with people because I'm going to let you fight by yourself. You're going to fight by yourself. I'm too tired and cranky. I don't typically like fighting with people, and everybody wants to get their point across. I'm like, okay, well, did you feel better? You got your point across. You didn't even change my mind. So I'm like, you don't care really about like where I'm going with it. I don't care where people are going with theirs. That's why ultimately I just share my own opinions regardless of what people are thinking about anyway. That's why it's called the Black Opinionated Woman. And then look, and I can change my mind if I want to. You want to know why? Because I'm grown. I am grown. Anyway, so if there's something that you would like me to talk about, then you should go ahead and leave a comment. Okay. And I may or may not talk about it. Um, I am adjusting to the time. I may or may not come on again tomorrow. So I don't know what I'm doing yet. I got a lot going on I got to do today, this week, really, in preparation for school to open. All right. Remember, I'm Gorge. Shout out to Rodolfo from Albania. And until next time.